So, yeah, I know you didn't vote for him in 2016. I assume, based on the fact that you approved Joe Biden when then Senator Obama picked him to be his running mate in 2008, I assume you're going to be voting for Joe Biden?
I'm very close to Joe Biden on a social matter and on a political matter. I've worked with him for 35, 40 years, and he is now the candidate, and I will be voting for him.
So what you just heard there was Colin Powell reject Donald Trump and endorse Joe Biden for president live on CNN with Jake Tapper. And none of that is too much of a surprise, of course, because although Colin Powell was a Republican Secretary of State under George W. Bush in the 2000s, he's always been critical of Donald Trump and his version of conservatism. And he notes in this interview earlier on that Donald Trump has departed from the Constitution, that Donald Trump has sort of made a mockery of the office of the presidency, and he can't support him for that. And so this isn't good news for Donald Trump. You might expect it, because Colin Powell is only one of many establishment Republican types that haven't endorsed Donald Trump. These people that supposedly represent institutions that are pro-Trump, like the military, Colin Powell being an established general, are actually not behind him, and if anything, are, standing against him explicitly. And so I don't think this is good news for Trump. But to say this is a huge score for Biden, I think would be overstating things. We have to remember that back in 2016, and in the run-up to this election too, lots of establishment Republicans, people that held formal roles or people that were just understood to be GOP intellectuals, strategists, party insiders, they were not with Trump. They would either stand directly against him, or maybe more commonly, wouldn't be anti-Trump / pro-Clinton, but wouldn't be helping Donald Trump in any way. They basically sat the election out. And as we saw, Trump won anyway, because his election was not based upon the fundamental need for support from the Republican establishment. A lot of those people, again, sat out or went with Clinton, and it didn't matter. He won regardless. And so those Biden people out there who see the Colin Powell endorsement and the rejection of Donald Trump as this huge coup for Biden need to really slow their roll a little bit, because I can see the roots of a 2016 style campaign happening all over again, where a lot of never Trump Republicans, everybody from Colin Powell to George Bush Jr. to David Frum, all of these people who have ghoulish histories on their own, not being able to defend and endorse and support Donald Trump and going with the Democrat either explicitly or implicitly. That sounds great, but it didn't work for Clinton. The Republican base didn't care. They are solidly behind Trump. And at the end of the day, with the Electoral College and the lack of enthusiasm for a Clinton campaign, Trump edged out an improbable victory, and he became president, and the Republicans won the House and the Senate in the process, all without a whole lot of establishment support. Now, the polls look really good for Joe Biden right now, and if the election was today, he would almost certainly be the winner. I don't think the man's going to be a good president. I don't think he deserves to be president. I do think he's better than Trump, but that's a bar so close to the ground, you need a microscope to see the gap. Nonetheless, it looks good, but if the election tightens, the way Biden wins is not with Colin Powell's and David Frum's and George Bush's. It's with mobilizing the sort of people that voted in 2012 and 2008 for Joe Biden, but didn't bother the vote for anyone in 2016, not Clinton or Trump. That's where Clinton lost primarily. Sure, there were Obama voters that switched to Trump, but fundamentally, if Hillary Clinton would have driven the same turnout in 2016 as existed in 2012, she'd be president right now, and the Democrats would likely control both, if not at least one of the houses. They would have been able to make Supreme Court nominations, and on and on and on and on. And it was turnout more than anything that hurt. Clinton could get all the suburban white credibility from Republican establishment figures. It didn't matter. A lot of Republicans still marked that ballot for Trump and for all the Republicans further down the ballot. That could happen again. It really could. And I don't think it's necessarily helpful for Biden when it comes to converting progressives to his cause to have all these high-profile Republican endorsements. I'm sure they appeal to some people. I'm sure they appeal to a lot of centrist, moderate types. I'm sure that some of the Never Trumpers love to see this, but I wonder if the Republicans already skeptical of Trump that aren't already with Biden, I don't know if this is going to bring them over. But I do know that Joe Biden has an ugly history, and that ugly history is often connected to the fact that he supported Republican policy over progressive Democratic policy throughout his career. Whether it's on crime, whether it's on bankruptcies, whether it's on cutting Social Security, or whether it was on things like the Iraq War, Biden has often sided with Republicans over progressive Democrats. And Colin Powell is a living reminder of how that Iraq War is one of the biggest calamities in American history. And if you want to demobilize progressives, if you want to tell progressives that they don't really matter, all you have to do is show a picture of Colin Powell and Joe Biden, play the clips of them supporting that war that no reasonable person thinks is a good idea anymore, and that reasonable people back then knew was wrong as well. And you're going to show people that Biden hasn't really changed, that Biden is the same man that sold American working class people who serve in the military down the river, right? Like, that's the legacy of the Biden-Powell friendship. So I'm warning people. There's going to be a lot of folks saying, oh, this is so huge. Colin Powell, all these big name Republicans are not endorsing Trump. And in fact, they're explicitly endorsing Biden. Trump can't win anymore. It's over. The establishment, moderates, they're all behind Biden. Remember that really was the case, maybe to a smaller degree in 2016, and it didn't matter. Biden still has one fundamental challenge ahead of him. Winning actual progressives to not only vote for him, but to have some kind of enthusiasm for him. That enthusiasm gap, I've talked about it on the channel, is massive between Trump and Biden. And that gap, more often than not, determines winners. Biden will not raise enthusiasm with Colin Powell endorsing him on CNN. He'll raise enthusiasm when he supports meaningful policy to ameliorate the condition of working class people. He hasn't really done that yet. And so this victory lap that some people are already starting to take is far, far, far too premature.